we need.
Hey everybody, guess what? It's time for another adventure on the open road. I'll be heading to Maryville, Tennessee for the 3rd annual Bike Week at the Harley-Davidson Smoky Mountain dealership. But hold on tight, because Gary has a surprise. Before we attend the rally, we'll be embarking on a ride into North Carolina and Virginia. And the best part, we'll wind up in Maryville, Tennessee for the Bike Week rally. I woke up early on Saturday morning, ready to meet Gary and Jim in Camden, Tennessee. As usual, the morning started off a bit chilly and foggy, but it quickly warmed up into a beautiful morning to start the day. We had an easy ride through downtown Nashville, making it a perfect start to our adventure. Our first stop was at the Harley-Davidson dealership in Cookeville, Tennessee. We checked in and enjoyed some donuts and coffee, and then hit the road again. The nice dry morning was about to change. The sky started to get cloudier, and we encountered some intermittent showers as we left Knoxville, Tennessee. So we hopped off I-40 and headed straight to Grandfather Mountain State Park in Linville, North Carolina. The temperature dropped into the upper 50s as we climbed higher. Jim and I had never been to Grandfather Mountain. We had no idea what to expect, but we were looking forward to the adventure. This park has a bunch of rugged alpine trails that you can either walk or hike on. They also have a mile-high swinging bridge, wildlife, scenic drives, and gift shops. We stopped at the park's gift shop to get out of the rain and warm up. In the gift shop, I pulled off my gloves and discovered the black dye from my gloves that had turned my hands black. The dye wouldn't wash off, and it took a couple days to finally wear off. When we first got to the summit, the mile-high swinging bridge was closed because of lightning strikes within a 5-mile radius of the park. We had to wait around 30 minutes for the lightning to stop. Once it did, the park opened the bridge, and we were allowed to cross. We climbed the rock stairway to the bridge. You could feel the bridge swaying in the wind. It had some really beautiful views of the Blue Ridge Mountains. Riding back down from the top of the mountain, we came across the Forrest Gump Curve. This is where Forrest Gump was filmed in the movie Running Up Grandfather Mountain. Further down the mountain, we visited the Wilson Center for Nature Discovery. It was a small interactive museum that would be a great place to take your family and small children.
Oh, that sounds beautiful. Doesn't take much to amuse small children.
The skies cleared up and the sun finally came out towards the end of the day as we made our way to the Pixie Inn Motel in Linville, North Carolina. We unloaded our bikes and luggage for the night. We walked about a quarter of a mile to a restaurant called Old Hampton Store and Barbecue. It was a great little place with cold beer on tap, good food, and a live band playing music. It was a great place to eat and end a long day of riding. We woke up early and hit the road to Shenandoah National Park Skyline Drive in Virginia. The day started off cool with fog. Most of the day was on the interstate highway. It was still a nice ride with lots of rolling hills and scenic mountains. When we entered Virginia, we rode to the national park's entrance sign. We stopped to take pictures at the sign so we could earn our Harley-Davidson 50 Rides One Nation token for Virginia. While at the sign, we briefly discussed riding into Washington, D.C. as an option, since we were less than 100 miles away from it. We did have other things we wanted to do, so we didn't consider it very long. We stopped for lunch at a restaurant called the River Burger Bar in the small town of Waynesboro, Virginia. Our next destination was the small town of Mount Airy in North Carolina. The day was warming up and thankfully there was no rain. It was a pleasant ride to our motel called the Andy Griffith Parkway Inn. While in the parking lot of the motel, we met another biker named Rick. He was from Parksburg, West Virginia. He was out flying his drone. I had lots of questions to ask him, as one day I'd like to get myself one. He was riding his Victory motorcycle to a rally in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
You're heading that way tomorrow?
Yep.
Oh, excellent. Awesome. Well, you take care.
Yep, you too, guys. Have a safe trip.
After we unloaded our bikes, we headed into town. It was a charming little town, all well-maintained and welcoming. And guess what? It's the hometown of Andy Griffith, the star of the iconic Andy Griffith Show. We took a quick ride through the downtown area and found some cool props from the show like the Mayberry Courthouse, Floyd City Barbershop, and they even have an Andy Griffith Museum. We plan to visit the museum first thing in the morning before we leave town. We had dinner at a Mexican restaurant called Plaza del Sol. It was a great place to eat with fast service and good food.
This is the Andy Griffith Parkway Inn. A pretty nice hotel for the price. It's $90 a night here, and considerably better than the Pixie Inn that we stayed in last night. So this is a pretty nice little hotel.
What are you guys doing this morning?
Doing absolutely wonderful. Ready for breakfast.
Yeah, same here.
Ready for Barney's breakfast.
All right.
Today we started our day with a home-style breakfast at Barney's Cafe in Mount Airy. It was a cozy place to start the day, and the food was really tasty.
Oh, look at all that. Depends.
2434.
After breakfast, we rode a short distance to the Andy Griffith Museum. It's a small but charming museum filled with all sorts of Andy Griffith and Mayberry memorabilia. Visiting the museum made me feel like I was transported back to my childhood when life seemed simpler and more carefree.
You know, I got pretty definite ideas how I want that fixed up. I want to have it so.
What's your?
Yeah, I think so. See if I can get down here right.
You're welcome. I'll see if I can find it.
After the museum, we got back on the road and headed towards Maggie Valley, North Carolina, to visit the Wheels Through Time Museum. It was a bit overcast today, but it made for a pleasant morning ride. Even though most of the route was on an interstate highway, it was a nice road with lots of scenic hills. By the end of the morning, the sun was out and it was a perfect day to ride a bike. So, we had lunch at this awesome little diner called Carver's Maggie Valley Restaurant. It's been around since 1952, and the food and service were top-notch. After lunch, we rode a mile down the road to the Wheels Through Time Motorcycle Museum. It was the first time that Jim and I had been to this museum, and it was an incredible place. This museum is massive, spanning over 38,000 square feet and housing over 300 rare motorcycles. If you're a motorcycle enthusiast, you absolutely must check it out. It could easily expand to accommodate all the bikes they have outside in shipping containers. We spent several hours exploring the museum. Next, we headed to Townsend, Tennessee, where we'd be spending the next few nights during the Smoky Mountain Bike Week rally. The ride to Townsend was about a 2-hour ride on the Newfound Gap Highway and Little River Gorge Road. It was a beautiful mountainous road and lots of twisties and tunnels through the Smoky Mountains. It was an amazing ride. Upon arrival, we unloaded our gear at the hotel and found a great place to eat in Townsend called Peaceful Side Social. It's a cozy little restaurant that I've been to before. They have delicious pizza, craft beer on tap, and a nice outdoor eating area.
Good morning. We're getting ready to head out to the dealership this morning once we get up and around. It looks like it's gonna be a nice day, at least for the first part. Maybe the second half there may be some rain, but it looks like it's gonna be a nice day, probably starting out in the low 70s. Fog out there settling in some of the hills. The reason they call it the Smoky Mountains. Anyway, looking forward, ought to be a good day, so we will see you on the road.
This year, the dealership had implemented a great idea. They designated all their dealership parking areas for motorcycles only. Cars had to park across a street and be shuttled to the dealership. It was a smart move, as now had plenty of motorcycle parking, which has been a real challenge in the past. The Smoky Mountain Harley-Davidson dealership is one of my favorite dealerships. Not only do they have an incredible selection of new and used motorcycles, but they also have an outdoor stage for concerts, an indoor-outdoor bar with draft beer, and a nice eating area called The Shed. We met Jimmy at the dealership. Jimmy had been in town for a few days already, getting some riding in.
I would love it.
So we had some free time, and Gary and I decided to check out the Harley-Davidson demo trailer. We got to test ride some bikes, and Gary rode the Harley-Davidson adventure touring bike called the Pan America. I rode 2 demo bikes, the Pan America and the Trike. I had to sit through a training video in order to ride the Trike, but it was still fun. I can totally see myself owning a Trike someday. I was very surprised how well and responsive the Trike was around curves.
So Gary, what'd you think of the
Oh man,
Pan
it
America?
was a great ride. It was a good, really good ride.
It was pretty awesome, wasn't it?
It was had a lot of torque and it was a good road to go through there.
It was a
Yeah.
good winding roads, wasn't it?
Really nice.
And you said you got it to 150?
No, I did not get to 150.
We had lunch at the Shed, which is an outdoor restaurant and part of the dealership. Jimmy led us on an afternoon ride to several dealerships, including Deals Gap, and to ride the Tail of the Dragon. The Tail of the Dragon is always a fun and challenging road. This was my first time riding the Dragon in the direction from North Carolina into Tennessee, which was a nice change. I'm always impressed how Gary and Jim can carve up the curves on their trikes. I was riding pretty hard, and Gary and Jim were making easy work of the curves. In fact, I scraped my floorboards a couple times while trying to keep up with them. We stopped at another dealership to check in on our way back to Townsend. Jeff, Greg, and Van got into town today, and we met them to eat dinner at the Abbey in Townsend. It's an unusual place, which looked more like a church than a restaurant, but the atmosphere and food were good. We got back to our hotel later in the evening and had time to sit outside and reflect on the day. We had breakfast at the hotel again and rode into Maryville to meet the others for a group ride. Jimmy downloaded a ride from the Smoky Mountain Harley-Davidson website called Yoder's Country Market Ride. It was a 200-mile ride with 6 hours of saddle time.
And for the most part, where we're going to be today, we're not going to be very far from Indiana.
Jimmy led the way, and we had Jeff, Greg, and Van join us. There were 7 of us in the group today. It was an amazing ride through the Smoky Mountains, and we ended up in the small town of Bull Gap to eat at Yoder's Country Market. On the way to Yoder's, we stopped at a Thunderhead Harley-Davidson dealership in Kodak, Tennessee to check in. We finally made it to Yoder's Country Market. The restaurant was very crowded, but the food was fresh and delicious. We found a spot to eat outside. It was a great afternoon of riding and hanging out.
When we were kids, yeah. No, I'm pretty sure it's all the man.
After lunch, we rode more country roads that took us through small towns and scenic roads until we ended up back at the Smoky Mountain Harley-Davidson dealership to visit and have a few drinks. I rode into Maryville to eat with my boys. I'm lucky to have two of my sons living in Knoxville and Maryville, so I was able to meet up with them for a short visit while I was in town. Today we all went our separate ways to ride different roads. Jimmy and Gary get the prize for the most mileage for the day. Jim and I wanted to have a nice, easy day. I planned a simple route to ride the Foothills Parkway. It was a relaxing morning where we stopped at a few shops before we started and had a nice visit at a local coffee shop. The Foothills Parkway is a beautiful road with nice twisties and stunning views of the Smoky Mountains. After our ride, we checked out some motorcycle vendors at the local mall parking lot in Maryville. We rode back to the dealership and ate lunch at the shed. The dealership had live music during lunch. When the entire group got back to the dealership, we decided to have dinner at a local brewery that had a Mexican food truck. We found a table and ate outside. The food and drinks were great.
It's okay.
It was getting dark, so we split up and headed back to our hotels. Gary, Jim, and I packed up early this morning. Gary and Jim were heading into Townsend to meet up with Jeff, Greg, and Van as they were planning to ride back to their homes today. Jimmy was planning to extend his stay for a few more days so he could continue to ride the Smokies. As for me, I was on my way to Knoxville to meet family. This was another incredible adventure riding with such great friends. We covered a lot of ground and took in a lot of sights in these 7 days. I always love riding with this group in the Smokies. Thank you, Gary, for planning and leading the bonus ride before the Bike Week rally. It was a blast. I want to express my deepest gratitude to God for watching over our group, keeping us all safe, and allowing us to return home to our families. Keep riding and be safe out there.